we go. Unfreaking believable. Unbelievable. I gotta be honest with you. That game drove me nuts. I cannot believe the Buccaneers lost that game. Wow. I don't even know what to say. Tough one. Man, that was an absolute blazer from Cooch, wasn't it?
What a crazy game. The Bulls are bowl-bound for the third season in a row. An incredible performance. But listen, we know the competition. They did what they had to do. No more silver linings. No more moral victories. It was put up or shut up time. And boy, did they rise to the occasion.
Bro, let me tell you. You ever have those mornings where every single time you try to take one step one way, you go back the other way, and you're like, where did bro, I couldn't find the light. I couldn't find the plug. I couldn't find my microphone. I couldn't find anything. I just kept saying to myself, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. Keep going. I have not been later than 30 seconds from noon on this show. I just every single time, I try to hit the video at 11:59:55 so that boom, the video starts right at noon. And then today I didn't even start till 12:05. So I'm running a little bit behind, but I'm feeling good, and I hope everybody else is out there too. I'm still tweeting out videos from last night. Commissioner Gary Bettman spoke. I don't know if you saw this, but just absolutely incredible. And we'll talk about it a little bit later on the show. I'm a little bit all over the place, so please bear with me. I love you guys. I appreciate all the support. Hey, look at the bottom of the screen right now. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Help us get to 3,000, baby. Clap it up, everybody. Everybody that's a member of the Wrecking Crew. We have over 2,000 subscribers. I didn't get it by the end of 2025, which is okay. My nephew didn't give me too much grief about it. I love you, Lawson. But I got there. And to me, it's one of those things you just got to put out good content. You put out good content, more people are going to subscribe to your stuff. So I put it on me. I love you all, man. Thank you so much, man. Make sure you follow me. And shout out JJ Moser going to the Olympics with Team Switzerland. No surprise there. My guy, I'm trying to talk to him yesterday. He got out of there quick. I said, damn, man, playing 24 minutes a night now. You can't, have time for your guys. You see I'm rocking the Man U kit. Big game today against Burnley as they're, whatever the hell they're doing. I don't know. They're up, down, all around. Who the hell knows? We have a great show for you guys today. We'll talk some Lightning. That game last night was sick. It was nuts. It was incredible. Logan Robinson's going to join us. Bucks game day. He does everything. Lolo, our guy Lolo Robinson, he's going to join us at 12:20 today. Erik Erlendsson is going to join us at 1:15. We're also going to discuss why teams should be moving heaven and earth to bring John Harbaugh in as their head coach. What else are we going to? There's just a lot to get into. Of course, we want to hear from you. Let me know. Questions, comments, concerns in there at the bottom of the screen. Follow me on all social media platforms at Recher, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. You know me. I am everywhere. And a big shout out, as always, to our partners, Honest Hammer Custom Builders, LLC, back with us in 2026. All your residential and commercial needs. EverHealth as well, the EverHealth Injury Report, every Thursday at 12:30 with our guy, Dr. Carlos Rodriguez. Can't wait to speak to him on the program tomorrow. Do you see this thing with Gary Bettman? We'll talk about it later. God, some good stuff, man. Last night, and I'm there's certain games, and of course I'm biased because I get to go to a lot of these games, and I cover the Lightning more than any other team. But last night was one of those games where even at the end, it was great that the Lightning won 8 in a row. But I gotta be honest with you, that was one of the best games that I've seen in the Tampa Bay area since I started covering sports. Just the level of play between both clubs. And it doesn't have to be perfect, right? That's the thing. Is this guy did this and this guy did that. Vasi just whiffed on that Brock Nelson goal. It's going to happen, right? It's going to happen because he was just so good for the rest of the game. But you're talking about the best team in the NHL. And that's why I tweeted out a little bit before. As far as the Ric Flair corollary goes, and this is what Erik Erlendsson wrote about. This is why you want to sign up for lightninginsider.com. To be the man, you got to beat the man. That's what Brandon Hagel said last night. Woo! To be the man, you got to beat the man. And that's what happened last night. And you're watching this game. And some of the things that I really loved about watching that game was when you watch a team give up a goal, you really want to see your response. And one thing that I really enjoy about this Lightning club so far in the 2025-2026 season is when they go down, they get right back up. And I thought they played some of their best hockey right after they gave up both of their goals. That says a lot about your resolve, says a lot about your team and your foundation and your resilience. It's hard not to watch that game last night and think we could see this team battle it out with Colorado once again in the Stanley Cup final. That means a lot of trips to Denver for your boy. Hopefully we get a home ice advantage, so there's more games here, and hopefully we can win this one. But it's just a thoroughly enjoyable game. And when you're a fan of a Tampa Bay sports team and you see, and it's tough to not bring in the Buccaneers when you're having these conversations, right? I mean, you look at it and who's frustrated when it comes to the Buccaneers and just this point of where we're at with Todd Bowles. Everybody is. Everybody is. You look at it and you go, a lot of deep breaths, a lot of exhales. You're a lot of like, here we go again. And right now with the Lightning, you're on an 8-game winning streak. You got a Stadium Series game coming up outside. This is where you want to be. This is where you want to be if you're a Tampa Bay Lightning fan. And to be there before the game last night, to see John Cooper get love for 1,000 games in the NHL, only the 5th coach ever to do it with one team. You kind of take it for granted sometimes. In my opinion, he's the best coach in sports right now. He should be, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. A guy that should be discussed more and more and more when it comes to the Jack Adams Trophy for the best coach in the league. But to see the videos from Wayne Gretzky and Charles Barkley and Steven Stamkos and Rondé Barber, like, that's special, man. That's special. To hear the video that preceded that, narrated by the great Scotty Bowman, who lives down here in the Florida area. It's just, I hope we don't take this for granted. I hope that what we've seen in the last couple of years, when we've kind of gotten out of the Tampa Bay era, helps everybody like remember this shit doesn't happen very often. And there's people that go their whole lives without seeing their team win a championship. Like, I'm a diehard Knicks fan, never seen the Knicks win. Last time they won was back in '73. That was 12 years before I was ever a twinkle in my daddy's eye, and if ever a thought, right? So we are in just an incredible era when it comes to the Tampa Bay Lightning. And shout out to Julian Breezewa, shout out to John Cooper. They're always thinking the long game. They really are. And when you see how good this team played last night, I was just so impressed. They could play anybody. They could play anybody. They could beat anybody on any given night. And I just have so much faith in this team, the way that they're constructed. It's not just that they won, it's how they won. How they won that game stands out to me. And oh yeah, let's not forget, Hedman wasn't there. McDonough wasn't there. Lilleberg wasn't there, right? So, I mean, you're missing 3 of your top 5 defensemen, and you still go out there and you still hold the Colorado Avalanche to 2 goals. Who's doing that? Who is doing that? Nobody. Nobody's doing that. But once again, you look at last night, and it is just another reminder that John Cooper is not just the best coach in the NHL, but the best coach in professional sports right now. Honored before the game for his 1,000th game with the Tampa Bay Lightning. It was so good to see him out there with his family and just to see how much they've grown. It's unbelievable that he has not won a Jack Adams Trophy. And you could argue that John Cooper has done his best job this year with this team. Cooch has missed time. Vazzy's missed time. Hedman's missed time. Chernek's missed time. McDonough's missed time. Lilleberg's missed time. Crozier's missed time. Like, so many of his top players have missed time. And yet this team is still churning out victory after victory after victory after victory. What more does this guy have to do? Back when they set records in 2019, all everybody wanted to do was give credit to the players, to Kucherov, to Stamkos, to Hedman, to Vasilevsky. Nothing for John Cooper. And I find it so ironic. And to me, it's asinine that recent post that was put out from the writers from NHL.com have Jared Bednar of the Colorado Avalanche clearly in number one, the leading man for the Colorado Avalanche, as they, up until last night, had only 3 losses in regulation. Fantastic coach. Nothing but respect for Bednar and the Avalanche. That game was incredible last night. But how come years ago that was held against John Cooper? But now, here in now 2026, Jared Bednar is getting celebrated because of the success of the Colorado Avalanche. What, Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar, 2 of the top 5, 6, 7 players in the game, they don't exist? Are they an upstart, plucky, overachieving club with no championship pedigree whatsoever? That's not what I'm seeing. I don't quite understand why John Cooper, the head coach of Team Canada, as we get closer and closer to the Olympics, doesn't get more love and appreciation and respect. This may be the best job that he's done behind the bench of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Putting together that line, here's an example. Putting together that line of Pontus Holmberg, Zemgus Girgensons, and Yanni Gourde has become the modern day Yanni Gourde, Barclay Goodrow, and Blake Coleman. They may not score as much as those guys, but Zemgus scored last night. Guess who didn't score last night? Nathan McKinnon, who many people think, if he's not the best player in the league, he's not worse than second or third. So John Cooper, right now, after 1,000 games with the Tampa Bay Lightning, after 4 trips to the Stanley Cup final, after 2 Stanley Cup wins, after back-to-back Cup victories, this may be the best job that he's done during his tenure with the Bolts. And I don't quite understand why he doesn't get more love. And I got to ask my buddy Corey Long, but we're going to have to drug test the writers over there at NHL.com. John Cooper, in that post that was put out, 5th? 5th? What are you smoking? Give me some of that. What the hell are we talking about? Go look at the man games lost. Go look at who's still not in the lineup right now. And they're in the middle of an 8-game winning streak. And they just beat the best team in hockey. No McDonough, no Hedman, no Lilleberg. You got guys like Charles Edouard Dastu in the lineup. You got JJ Moser playing 24 minutes a night. You got Darren Radish scoring a hat trick the other day. You got guys like Dominic James making an impact in the lineup. Where's the love for John Cooper? We saw it last night at Benchmark International Arena before the win over the Colorado Avalanche. It'd be nice to see some love nationally too, because it's an absolute crime that he hasn't won the Jack Adams yet. This should be the year. John Cooper, salute to you. All right, let's switch gears. Talk some hockey. We'll talk some hockey again later. Let's bring in our good pal, and I'm seeing some, I don't know if it's breaking news or not, Logan Robinson, Logan's Twitty, Bucks, Knowles Game Day, and 9 other podcasts. What's going on, brother? How are you?
How are we doing, Jay? Good afternoon to you. There's craziness happening the last 72 hours,
Right.
and maybe in the last 20 minutes, I'd
Yeah.
say, coming off of this report from Jeremy Fowler from ESPN.
Yes, and just to recap, and we'll give you everything from Jeremy Fowler. Mike Tomlin stepping away is at least a possibility. Jesse Minter could fit with the Ravens. Dolphins not expecting to part ways with Mike McDaniel. Kyler Murray may start next season for a new Cardinals head coach. And the one piece of news that affects us here in the Tampa Bay area, signs point to Todd Bowles returning to the Buccaneers, possibly with a new offensive coordinator and additions to the defensive staff. So just your initial reaction there. First off, Happy New Year to you, my brother. Thank you so much. But just your initial reaction to that report before we get into pretty much everything else.
Well, I think all of us, you were there sitting right next to you when we were talking with Todd Bowles, and there was a lot of questions asked about his future and does he feel like he should be brought back in 2026? And his biggest thing was that he won 3 division titles. So then now we, get fast forward over here to today. Jeremy Fowler puts out the report that, Todd Bowles speaking with the Glazers and has a planned meeting later on today with some of his staff members. That certainly would lead you into feeling like the security of Todd Bowles is pretty strong going into next year. Now, I still think things are a little bit up in the air. I think the Glazers are going to do what they need to do. They need to do their due diligence. And I think there could be some more options across the board at head coach. I mean, I look at Matt LaFleur. They're on a 4-game losing streak. There's been some chatter up there in Green Bay. If they want to move on from him, of course, we know John Harbaugh, and that situation there in this Bucs fan base is really looking at him to being, hey, this would be a pretty nice and solid replacement of Todd Bowles, of course. And then even there's Cliff Kingsbury, who, had a strong season in 2024 with Jaden Daniels, his rookie season, but things kind of fell apart for them absolutely this last year. I think Bucs fans, of course, are looking for any type of replacement. I think it shows that this fan base is ready to move on with this coach that won them, 3 division titles, and Todd Bowles certainly told us that he feels like that should keep him secure. But it's the NFC South, man. That was my immediate reaction when I was sitting next to you. I was like, it is the NFC South, though. So I don't know, man. I still think, yes, you can get these reports and stuff, but this is the Glazers. There's a lot of family members that have to come into agreement here, and that's going to take a little while, in my opinion, Jay. I don't know about you, but I still don't think we're done yet here. You can get all the reports until we really feel like we get a good a feeling from the Bucs side on things. I just I don't kind of care too much about what these reports are. I still think that the Blazers need to do their due diligence, because I think there's going to be a lot more movement at the head coaching position across the NFL.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. I'm with you. And I look at this whole situation as, you could talk to him now, but there's no reason why they can't bring him back in and be like, hey, things have changed, and I've been doing this for a while, buddy. And I think when you do this for an extended period of time, you start picking up patterns in press conferences, and you don't like to speculate, but you kind of just, you have to read the tea leaves. You kind of read between the lines. And I've been in a lot of those press conferences where guys have spoken and then they didn't have a job 24, 48, 72 hours later. And I thought, and I brought this up to Greg Allman yesterday, I hated the response. And it was to me, out of all people. And it's not a defensive thing. It's not like, it's whatever. It doesn't hurt my feelings. But it's just, when I ask you about the special teams coach, right? And I didn't ask you, why didn't you fire him? I said, what do you say to fans that say, fire him? Why is it not that easy? And he's like, well, who would you have put there? Don't get defensive to me, buddy. I'm not calling for the guy's job, right? And it's almost like, and it's very similar to a couple of years ago. And I think it was our pal JC Allen that was like having the conversation with Byron Leftwich. And it's like, oh, our numbers are good, our offense is good, our running game's good. It's like, no, it's not, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't pour water on my head and tell me that it's raining, right? It's a weird. What did you, now from the response of the press conference, you mentioned a little bit there, walking out of there after he spoke and listened, he answered a ton of questions, to Todd Bowles' credit. But walking out of there, did you feel more confident? Did you feel like, wow, fans are really going to be excited if this guy comes back in 26?
I think it's going to be strong. It's going to be hard for this fan base to feel optimistic about 2026 with Todd Bowles as your head coach. And, there was some questions of, okay, so the media asked him, what about if a defensive coordinator came in and you relieved your duties of being a play caller on the defensive side of the ball? First off, I don't think Todd would take that. I think he would just go ahead and say, well, I could just tell off of his response that, first I'd have to meet with them and see. But I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't think he'd rather retire on that front than do any of that mess. And he's a guy that I don't see as being a CEO head coach. I don't think that's just the type of vibe that I get from him, nor that I don't think this locker room really wants. I don't think he's predicated off the success of what he's been able to do as a defensive play caller.
Right. That's not his strength.
And Bruce Arians was nice and gave him this opportunity, gave him the keys to this. And I think Todd was a little shocked too whenever he got that call that, hey, by the way, I'm going to give you the keys to being the head coach of the Bucs. That was never really, I don't think, in the mind of Todd Bowles. Of course, would he want to take any coordinator? Usually, absolutely would want to take that opportunity. There's only 32 jobs in the league to get this opportunity, so Todd was going to take it, absolutely. But I don't think that was really in his mindset that he was going to be a head coach of the Buccaneers. Maybe he'd get an opportunity elsewhere, but that landed on him, and I just don't see where he'd be a CEO head coach. Only a few of those guys can do that in the league. You look at like Mike Tomlin, then the success there, of course. But there's other coaches. I mean, you look at John Harbaugh. There's coaches out there that are defensive minded like Harbaugh that don't necessarily have to be play callers. I just don't think Todd Bowles, and personally, he would want to do something like that. Jay, I don't know about you.
No, I'm with you, buddy, and I hate it. I don't like being that guy that calls for people's jobs. But it just, to me, man, it always goes back to, and I feel like a broken freaking record saying this so many freaking times the last couple of weeks.
Welcome to my life as being an FSU.
I bet. Outlet. And we'll get into that here in a little bit.
Welcome to my life.
Yeah. If you are a coach that's known for a certain thing and you're not doing it, you're not going to be employed very long, nor should you. Right? Like if I'm a guy that prides myself on having a podcast that talks about all the Tampa Bay sports and saying that I go to all these games and I'm going to go to games and I mispronounce people's names, right? Like people are going to be like, what the frick does this guy know? Right? If Sean McVay starts going out there and his offense is in the bottom 10 in the league, right? Is he Sean McVay anymore? Is Kevin O'Connell that guy anymore? Is Kyle Shanahan that guy anymore? Like we understand what type of coach those guys are. We understand they're the head coach, but what's their bread and butter, right? It'd be one thing if you're a Harbaugh, if you're a Tomlin, like I think even a Tomlin defensive guy, but it'd be one thing if you were that model of consistency, that pillar, that foundation, right? And that's why I kind of like from like the John Harbaugh thing. And I know it sucks because you got to go get coordinators if you're, coming from a special teams background, but at least that aspect, like he's got that, all right, I can do the CEO thing. And I don't mind delegating, right? And, things can fall in the cracks, but nothing's perfect. I don't know how fans, even the most optimistic, supportive, ardent Buccaneer fans, are going to be thrilled going into next year with Todd Bowles as the head coach, even if they make adjustments, even if they bring in a different offensive coordinator, even if they bring in a different special teams coach, if they fortify the offensive line and they bring in some more pass rushers and they fix the inside linebacker position. If Mike Evans and, this as well as anybody, brother, if you are talking about ifs and coulds and woulds when you're talking about a team, you're not talking about a good one because so many things have to go right. I don't have the optimistic about, I just don't feel good about this. Feel good about the guy, not about the coach.
Yeah.
I've been catching a lot of heat, but there's been a lot of back and forth on my social media the last 48 hours about the video that I put out about Jason Light and that he had to wear a lot of this as well. And I don't know if you saw it, but it's got almost 100,000 views. It just, people are just like, I can't, because listen, I think it's fair. And I'm not saying he should fire him. I'm not saying that he's in the same boat as Todd Bowles. I'm not saying he's more to blame than Todd Bowles. But you cannot tell me that the offensive line was really addressed in the way that it needed to be to deal with some injuries, that the inside linebacker position was good enough and the pass rush was good enough. What is your take on Jason Licht?
Oh, I brought that up. That's funny you said that because I brought that up earlier on our Bucks Game Day podcast this morning. And I said, there's some things on the shoulders of Jason Licht where he's got to take the brunt of what happened this season. Yes, you went and got Emeka Egbuka, which I think you were expecting for Mike Evans to retire after the season if he would have reached 1,000 yards. Now it's kind of up in the air if Mike Evans might just want to come back now. He took a freak accident injury with the collarbone. He's always had the hamstring injuries, but he's usually been able to battle through those and still get those 1,000 yards. But I think there's still some competitiveness there, and he still can play at a high caliber. But you still drafted Emeka Egbuka, where I think all of us, when we're doing our NFL draft plan and everything, it was really predicated in the first couple of rounds defensively because they needed to get a pass rusher. They needed to do better because Chris Braswell has been an absolute bust for the Buccaneers. And then, two, you looked at the linebacker position. This is going to be Levante David's last season. What are you going to do there to look at the future? Because all you just kept Levante David and Savassier Dennis, which Savassier Dennis has been an absolute roller coaster ride as well in his early part of his career with the Buccaneers. And they could have done better for sure at the second level. And then, of course, Kalijah Cansey had his injury early on in the season. That was another freak accident that happened there. That could have certainly helped you a little bit on the inside, along with Vita Vea. But nonetheless, though, they tried to do what they did with Hassan Reddick. And Hassan Reddick, 2.5 sacks on the season, is an absolute disaster of the signing that you thought you were going to get this offseason. You could have helped yourself, though. I understand Walker, too, David Walker. He got injured during training camp. That was awful. He was showing that, okay, this guy can be a contributor for you, but still, you could have found some pass rushers earlier on in that NFL draft, but you decided to go after a wide receiver with Emeka Egbuka, which, really showed some good signs to you in the preseason, of course, in the early parts of the season with some of those guys being out in the wide receiver room. But you started to see the fall off there, which I think is more predicated on Josh Grizzard and not understanding what to do when things started to get tough when defensive coordinators were starting to read what he wanted to do on a week-to-week basis. But I think, I'm on board. I think Jason, for sure, not saying that he's on that same level like you just said, Jay, of Todd Bowles, but there is certainly some blame here. And not just from this year, but it's been years after years after years that the Bucs have not been able to draft at the pass rush position. I thought they should have gone after, and I'm a little biased because I got that FSU helmet behind me. But man, could you imagine Jared Verse in this defense, trade up for him just a couple spots and go after a guy with fire, energy? We all know the skill set that he has. He can bring pressure. Now, if he can improve, get to the quarterback, he's an absolute playmaker for you. I think that was a major miss that the Bucs could have taken advantage of a couple of years ago. But still, they went after Chris Braswell, which I think a lot of us were like, well, that's going to take a couple years of development. You still have to rely on a couple years of development. You need that now. And here we are, Jay. And absolutely, I think Jason is not right there with Todd, but there's some blame to be had for him.
Somebody tried to come at me last night, and you got to be careful because I'm not one of those people. You know me. I'm not one of those people that likes to go back and forth on social media because I don't have the time, and I don't want to deal with people like that, especially if you're being rude or inconsiderate or you're.
It's just engagement, though, Jay.
It is. So that's why you got to find the battle, right? You got to find the balance, rather. But a guy was telling me how good Jason Licht has been doing drafting the last 4 years. Did you know that Jason Licht has not drafted a Pro Bowler in the last 5 drafts? 5 drafts. The last time that Jason Licht drafted a Pro Bowler, it was Tristan Wirfs and Antoine Whitfield. And they've combined for 7 Pro Bowls in the last 6 drafts, and they've come from the 2 guys back in 2020. It's not good enough, man. There's some good players there. Some people are going, oh, that's not a bad pick, but no Pro Bowlers in 5 years, bro. Like, come on, man. And it's not like it's not like an all-pro thing where you kind of have to earn it. There's no all pros there either, right? Like that's the craziest part of this entire process of like, he's got to wear some of this too. And that aura of, wow, you helped bring a championship here. Like that shit wears off. I mean, Harbaugh's without a job. He's got a Super Bowl on his ledger too. What do you make of the changes on the coaching staff? Who do you think leaves? Who do you think stays? Because McGahee, I think he's got to go, but they're not going to let Bowles stay here if he doesn't make some serious changes there with his coaching staff.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys with ties, long time loyalty with Bowles that I think they're going to look into. I think, from the Fowler report, I think Greg Allman had something go out, just looking at Michael's comment here on YouTube, but he's going to meet with the staff. And I would imagine that the Glazers, to me, are having a discussion with Todd on who are you moving on from, because you've been loyal with these guys for a very long time. Some of these guys older in age, and maybe that's deteriorating on the message that's being sent to some of these younger players, which you do have a young roster on the outside of Levante David. You got Vita Vea, of course, but I mean, for the most part, you're relying on some of this young youth, and the message isn't getting across. I mean, we heard from Yaya Diaby and the locker room cleanouts on Monday saying that, he feels like Todd Bowles' defense is not easy to get down. It's complex. You have to do a lot of studying for it, and then you have to make sure that it connects over onto the field on Sundays. And he said that some guys, he was practically calling them out, saying that there's some guys that just weren't getting it. And, he said that he's going to have to step up and build accountability across the team, and he is going to be more vocal going into next year. But it seems like from like Jamel Dean's side of things, he spoke with Greg Allman as well. And, they had an interview, and it was practically saying that, hey, we prep hard, we do all this kind of stuff, and then it just doesn't lead to anything on Sundays. Like just whenever the bullets start flying, he said, it's just things fall apart. And I think that's just due to the defensive mind that Todd Bowles had. And he's going to have to switch up things. Yes, he's going to have to make some staff changes. I think that's the Glazers. They're going to point to that for sure, number one. But this defense has to be simplified, I think, overall, moving forward for these guys to get it down. It just seems like they're not on the same page, I think, in the locker room on the defensive side of the ball. And that's got to be fixed, because there is talent there and it's shown before. But like we said earlier, you're going to have to reload. You're going to have to find some guys in free agency, and you have to find some of these coaches that I don't know how much longer they're going to last. I mean, special teams has been an absolute disaster for them this year. And it just got to the point where the Bucs were just kicking the ball through the end zone. Outside of an accidental one in Miami where the kick was short, guess what? What a 45-yard return on your head, just like that, just because they couldn't make a tackle. Loyalty will kill you. And for a head coach, loyalty will kill you, keeping assistants and coordinators around for too long. And that might just be what happens to Todd Bowles if he does not make it into 2026.
So many things to take away from that. Well, very well said. I just don't understand when we get to a point where, hey, you're a coach, you bring in these guys, they didn't do good enough. Go bring somebody else in. That's not his job. Like, you're a head coach. Like, and if he didn't do it right the first time or the second time, why do you expect? Like, Todd Bowles isn't a Super Bowl winning head coach. He hasn't even made it to the NFC Championship game. Why are they relying on him to make these decisions? That doesn't make any sense. That's not a recipe for success. And the whole, this thing is driving me crazy. This Yaya Diaby, we need to practice harder stuff. Like, I don't quite understand where Yaya Diaby gets off saying something like this. You told us in February of 2025 that you were an elite pass rusher. Check the tape, he said. My guy had how many sacks, bro? 7 sacks. Who are you to tell anybody that practice isn't right? 7 sacks. You're not elite. James Pierce had 8.5 as a rookie. You're in year 3. You have never had more than 7.5 sacks a season. Who are you to say anything about what this defense looks like? And also, people are talking about all the walkthroughs and practices and stuff. This wasn't the 85 Bears last year or the 2000 Ravens. Like, it's just so weird. Like, we're relying on coaches and we're relying on players that have not done it before in said roles to try to tell us what success looks like. Like, Logan, this is, there's just no way that this could happen. Like, this isn't Antoine Winfield Jr. saying this. This isn't Vita Vea saying this. This isn't Tristan Wirfs, Levante David, Mike Evans. These aren't guys that were there winning a Super Bowl with Tom Brady, right? Like, I just don't understand how, like, we got to a point where that Yaya Diaby is now the voice of reason. How can you can't lead unless you're in the front? And just because you have the most sacks on this team, you're not Myles Garrett. You had less than a third of sacks. You excuse me. You had less than a third of the amount of sacks that Myles Garrett had this year. And you're telling us that the team didn't practice right? What kind of sense does that make?
I think he's pointing to, along with this, there's some criticism here for Bowles, if you want to say it, but the walkthroughs. They've had a lot of walkthroughs, definitely in the second half of the season. But Bowles said the blame for that is because of all the injuries that they dealt with.
But
there couldn't be any physical contact.
And a lot of people do that, though. That's the thing. Is like people live in a bubble, and they just think that happens here. That happens all across the National Football League. All across the NFL, teams do the majority of their practices, not majority, but a good fair amount of their practices as walkthroughs. This isn't something that was just for the Bucs. And people hear this, and T-Kraz says it, and Scott Reynolds says it, and everybody says it. And it's like, that is an excuse from the players. It's, to me, it's like the JPP thing. It's not what was said. It's the fact that it was said, because that's a soft football team. Because nobody was saying anything about JPP not practicing 3 years ago, or Gronk not practicing 4 years ago, or any of these, or all the veteran days a couple of years ago, Levante and Mike Evans and all these other guys had when they were still performing at a high level, and they were just going through walkthroughs. And now, because your team sucks and your defense doesn't know what the hell they're doing, now there's a problem with walkthroughs. Like that, it's an excuse. This team is littered with excuses why they're not good. Okay, practice hard next year. Then what happens? Right? What's the difference? Yaya wasn't sacking anybody in the beginning of the year when they were practicing hard. So I just don't understand. This is a fragile team. And again, it kind of goes back to, how the hell are you going to have a head coach with a team that's this fragile? I don't get it.
They've lost a lot of accountability too. You could tell. I mean, the only real accountability I saw was down in Miami whenever Bucky Irving was having a fit with the offensive line, calling them out. Outside of that, those guys go down once the series is over after giving up a touchdown or a failed offensive possession, and they go sit down, look at the tablet, heads down. That's about it. No communication with anybody else that much. No accountability. No, hey, this has got to be fixed over there. Just, Baker just sitting by himself. You could just tell, I mean, outside of Levante David after games and locker rooms, which we could hear there in Miami, I mean, he was going off on them, but it just seems like that happens post-game, and then we get prepared for next week. Everything's goody-goody. Everything's fine. And then we'll do it over again once the Bucs, they lose another game. Then Levante David goes off in the locker room. Mike Evans will have a speech, and then we go do that again for another week. There's nothing on field during the game. I mean, I don't see Levante David doing that as well. And, this was his last, this is going to be his last season as a Buccaneer. And, they lost a lot of that. And leadership is something that has completely fallen off on the defensive side of the ball. Vita Vea is not a person to be vocal. He will never be that. He never even speaks to the media anyways. He's just there for on play, and he'll earn his respect by doing that. But, you would have thought maybe Antoine Winfield would step up to be someone that would be in that case, getting a massive deal, being the highest paid defensive back in all of football. Maybe he'd step up and be a leader vocally. But with Levante David leaving, it's going to get worse, though. I mean, you had maybe one person speaking up, but it's going to get worse with Levante David moving on, and you have nobody. There's absolutely nobody on the defense, except for now, I guess Yaya Diaby is going to step up for you and speak up a little bit more. But like you said, it comes down to the head coach at the end of the day. It's been a rough watch. I keep an eye on the sidelines. That's what I've had to do the last couple of years, looking at FSU, which is really getting close to what we're seeing here in Tampa, which has been brutal. I get this on Saturdays. I know, cool. We get this the experience on Sundays too, so you get a double whammy. But I look at the sideline a whole ton. I like to see just how guys are feeling, definitely after series, definitely when it's a failure. And coming off of the field after games and such, and there's just no communication. There's no talking with one another. They just kind of keep to themselves and such. And I could tell this locker room was lost in the once they started seeing that fall off, going on that losing streak at the second part of the season. And that's hard for a head coach to fix whenever he's not an extroverted guy, a guy that comes in with fire, a talkative guy, vocal leader and such. That's really, really hard to do. You're seeing a whole 180 with Liam Cohen right now, Jay, which is a rough rough scene for Bucks fans right now because they didn't like what happened with Liam Cohen and that whole situation. But it is their whole 180 in coaches, and Liam Cohen was for a lot of the success last year for the Bucks, and now look at him right now fighting in the playoffs, being one of the top teams. You could see a top 3 team in the NFL right now going to the playoffs. Just a whole different type of attitude as a head coach.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, before I let you go, let's talk. I got to ask you about DJ Lagway. This is, I mean, I thought DJ Lagway hated.
He does. He does. He wouldn't hate a $800,000 NIL deal though.
Yeah, I mean, I thought DJ Lagway hated Florida State. Now he could be the next guy in the center for the Noles. What's going on?
Yeah, that was the talk after he came and visited earlier this week. He took the visit, and DJ Lagway dealing with injuries and everything. I didn't understand it really at all. Florida State just landed Ashton Daniels from Auburn, who backup quarterback, whatever you want to call it, just someone that has not really fired up the FSU fan base to go and grab season tickets for next year. You're always going to be capped off with a Gus Malzahn offense with what you're going to get at quarterback. Everybody goes back to Cam Newton and the success there that he was able to have, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Outside of that, though, you're not going to have a quarterback that's a true passer that's going to get the ball to a lot of wide receivers, Jay. It sucks. It's kind of underwhelming for you as a fan base, but you got to hope a lot of those other resources go elsewhere. But DJ Lagway was brought in to, start testing the waters and start raising the money price for him because he visited Florida State. I think he went over to Virginia. I think he's going to go. Maybe there's some chatter of Texas A&M. Like he's going to get some visits just because of what he was in high school, but he hasn't been that same type of player at the college level, and injuries certainly hurt him quite a bit. So that was a crazy scene. Like he's mentioned before on podcasts and shows, he hates Florida State, but to see Mike Norvell in there, it felt like an AI photo of seeing those two together. Just felt really weird and awkward, and that's practically the offseason for Florida State right now. They had eight players, and I don't know, there might have been one while we're sitting here on this show, but 8 players in the last 36 hours, and important players decide to announce their intentions to enter the transfer portal. It's an absolute mess, and that's what you get when you're loyal to your head coach that has completely lost the locker room in the last 2 years.
Wow, you have to go through this on Saturdays and Sundays, don't you?
Yeah, I get all it. It's what a time to be alive. That's my theme of the last 2 years.
Yeah, I remember years ago when USF and the Bucks were both terrible. And USF got blown out by ECU, and then the Bucks got blown out by the Ravens. And I tweeted out, the teams that play in the stadium just got beat 72-7 by teams wearing purple. Like it was such a bad weekend for Tampa Bay sports fan. It was not good, man. Not good at all. Logan Robinson, Logan's Twitty, Lolo Robinson. Follow him on all social media platforms. Bucks, Noles, Game Day, 8,000 other game day things. How many things do you do on a daily basis?
Outside of the Bucks and Commanders, just FSU, and then we have the Dallas Mavericks and NBA, Dallas Wings, and then all of MMA, including all the UFC stuff as well. So, and right now, though, all my football seasons are over. So we get to talk about potential new head coaches for the Bucks. FSU sticking with their head coach. The whole roster's leaving, and the Commanders are the Commanders. They just got rid of all their staff except for their head coach.
Oh, my God.
Hey, at least the Lightning are playing well. I keep up with them on a daily basis. So at least the Lightning are looking hot with a big win last night, too. So that's something exciting.
A show that I just found, you got to check it out on Netflix, called Physical Asia. Have you heard of it?
No.
Physical Asia. It's just a crazy, it's kind of like a mix between like American Ninja Warrior, but it's like a lot more intense. There's fighting, and there's like
Ooh.
Robert Whitaker's on there.
Yeah. Yep.
Yushin Okami from Japan. Manny Pacquiao's actually on this season.
Oh, wow.
And it's like 8 different countries: Turkey, Philippines, Indonesia,
Oh, that
Australia.
sounds sick.
It's insane. They're like wrestling in a pit of sand, and there's different athletes from each country. There's swimmers, there's wrestlers, there's like basketball players, there's judo and jiu-jitsu. It's wild. It's one of the craziest shows I've ever seen. So definitely check it out. At Logan's Twitty, Bucks and Knowles game day. I'm losing my voice, man.
There's a lot.
I need a vacation, even though I just was on vacation.
We don't have vacations in this
Nah,
industry.
you got that right, my friend. Logan, thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your week.
Appreciate it, Jay. You'll have a good one. Peace.
You too, buddy. The great Logan Robinson. He's all over it, man. Make sure you check him out on all social media platforms. Yeah, go check out that show, man. Freaking awesome. What else was awesome was last night. Being there at, I always want to say Amelie. Benchmark International Arena. And Gary Bettman spoke. And, you know, it's always interesting to speak to the commissioner. We interviewed him before on WDAE. He's been there forever. I mean, I feel like he's been the commissioner my entire life. And he spoke about like obviously the outdoor game stadium series coming up on February 1st at Raymond James Stadium between the Boston Bruins and your Tampa Bay Lightning. And he made a great remark about why the outdoor game is coming here. And the 3 big things, the 3 big reasons why were, number 1, the billboard that they saw leaving the 2018 NHL All-Star Game, letting everybody know that, you know, hey, we'd love to have an outdoor game here. And I'm trying to reach out to figure out, it was probably the Tampa Bay Sports Commission, Rob Higgins, when he was the executive director there. Number 2 was the relentlessness of a guy like Jeffrey Vinnick and just staying on it and staying on it and staying on it. But the other thing that really stood out was, and this is his words, the 25,000 Tampa Bay Lightning fans that traveled to Nashville for the Stadium Series there a couple years ago. And I remember going there to Nashville, and man, it was cold. It was freaking freezing there in Tennessee. And I just remember walking down the street and just looking around going, let's count how many Tampa Bay Lightning fans are out here. And I was thinking, all right, there'll be 10, and then there'll be a bunch of Predators fans, and then a bunch of, bro, I think I got up to like 47 or 57 straight Lightning fans. It was insane how many people from the Tampa Bay area went to Nashville. And now we know the number, the actual number was 25,000. So many times I think in sports, people are worried. And I've had this conversation with my dad before, right? Like, because my dad used to be really into sports big time, and it would affect his mood. It would affect his day. If the Yankees blew a game or the Giants blew a game, he'd be pissed. And then at some point years ago, he kind of gave it all up, and he was just like, why the hell am I getting so upset? Why am I letting these millionaires ruin my day? They don't even know who the hell I am. And it was, again, you hear me say this a lot. Life is all about point of view. Life is all about perspective. But my dad, like, you could just tell, like, the weight came off his shoulders. And I know it's a lot easier for certain people to say that because we know fan is short for fanatic. And you put your time and your money and your energy into this stuff. And it is an escape from reality. And you're a bolt for a life, or, you're a season ticket holder. I get that, right? And it's not just you. It's your significant other. It's your kids. It's your friends. Like, I get that. And the beautiful thing about sports is, for all the things that separate us, our religions or our political affiliations or anything like that, like, sports is one of those things that kind of brings us together, which is pretty damn cool when you think about it. But I think at times it's tough to understand and realize the impact that a fan base can really have. Do I just go, am I just another face in the crowd? Am I just another number to these teams, to these organizations? Yeah, I support them. Yeah, I can go to certain activities and meet my favorite players and take it, but how much does it really matter? And I think we have two examples here in the Tampa Bay area that are just complete opposite ends of the spectrum. And as I'm listening to Garrett Bettman speak last night, I think about the Lightning, but I also think about the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays' new owners have to understand this. You need to make sure that your fan base feels special, that what they're doing is making an impact. Because even though the Rays filled Tropicana Field for some playoff games years ago, it just didn't feel like, all right, that made a difference. It was still like, you have to prove it to us. Nobody wants to feel like that. We have an example now here in the Tampa Bay area that all of those people, all of those 25,000 members of Bolts Nation that spent their hard-earned money to drive or to fly to Nashville, to stay there, to hang out at the bars there on Broadway, to go to the game, it was worth it. Look what you did. Bolts Nation, stand up. You made an impact. How many times can you directly correlate the impact a fan base has on a team? I don't know how many times you can. But we see that right here. And that isn't fluff. That isn't an opinion. That's fact. That is coming from the decision maker's mouth himself. Gary Bettman told us as such in the press box last night. Don't think it was lost on us that 25,000 people went to Nashville. Kudos to you, to all those fans out there, Bolts Nation. It feels good, doesn't it? It feels good to have that love reciprocated. It feels good to know that that energy, that time, that love, that money is worth it. I really hope that the Tampa Bay Rays see that, and that's how they start operating their business. Because you feel good. You don't hesitate to spend money on the Bolts. You don't. When you see Jeff Vinnick spending money on our hometown heroes, when you see all these different people out there for the Tampa Bay Lightning organization giving back to our community, you feel like a part of the family. If the Rays are going to be successful in this town, that is what they have to do. Just as much as putting a winning product on the field, just as much as finding a new stadium, they have to repair the relationship between our community and that baseball team because it's just not good enough. You can't be a niche fan for baseball. Hockey, look at the change. We have an example there. God, I hope the Rays make a difference. Because if not, I wouldn't be surprised if they were gone in 10 years. If they don't find a stadium. All right, before we get back to talking some Buccaneers, guys, make sure you support our partners. Honest Hammer Custom Builders, LLC, licensed, insured, bonded, general contractor, residential and commercial needs, 813-244-0956. Look at my guy Hammer checking in. He's the best. Such a good guy. Big Tampa Bay sports fan, just like you, a USF grad. These are the kind of people that you want to work with here in the Tampa Bay area. I'm just so grateful for Russ, and he's always got a smile on his face. He just, again, I said this last year. I'm going to say it again. When I went out to the job site, and I'll be heading out there in the next couple of weeks too to one of the other job sites, when you see how a guy like Russ speaks to the people that work for him, it makes you like, I'm one of those people that I can smell bullshit from a mile away. I can tell if like you're just being nice to somebody now because I'm in the presence, like because the reaction that they'll give you will give it away. They'll just be like, "Why are you being nice to me now?" You see that, y'all see that. But when Russ walks up to somebody and there's a genuine look of happiness on that worker's face, and he's engaging with him, and you can tell it's not the first time, and they're talking about personal things, like that there's a rapport there that is genuine. That's the kind of people that you want to surround yourself with. I say support local. We talk about that when we talked about the Tampa Bay Times. We talk about Lightning Insider. I can't stress that enough when we're talking about our friends over at Honest Hammer. Again, 813-244-0956, thehonesthammer.com. Shoot them an email, thehonesthammer@gmail.com. Tell them that you heard it right here on the Jay Recher podcast. Get a discount, kitchen, bathroom renovations. Help them out. Help them out. You help them out, you help me out. Everybody helps each other. And of course, EverHealth, our injury report tomorrow at 12:30 with Dr. Carlos Rodriguez. 17 different locations in Pinellas County that want to help you from the cradle to the grave. They got a sliding scale for the uninsured. They take any kinds of insurance. And the EverHealth Institute, if you're looking for a career, if you have a son or a daughter or a niece or a nephew or a friend that has a son or a daughter and they want to get into the medical field, they don't know quite how. That's something that we see now, and in different generations after me, where the kids are struggling to make a decision because they don't want to make the wrong one. Sometimes you got to take a leap of faith, but sometimes you got to help them. You got to show them that there's a way you can do some hands-on training to learn what your career could be. I did that. The broadcasting school that I went to back in 2012 changed my life. But I was able to work and learn. And when I was able to get that internship at WDAE, it changed everything. Then when I worked there, I hit the ground running. Same thing with the EverHealth Institute, everhealth.org. Go check it out. There's such an incredible website, so much information. But the EverHealth Institute, you get hands-on training, and then you can work for EverHealth, or you can work for one of the other medical facilities here in the Tampa Bay area. You just can't beat it. All right. Real happy and sending some love to Chan with the $5 super chat, and our guy Eddie as well. Thank you so much. We passed 2,000 subscribers, man. So happy. Thank you guys, all of you. Thank you so very, very much. All right, Erik Erlendsson is going to join us at 1:15, but before we do that, I can't stress to you guys enough why it is so thoroughly important for a team to go out there to move heaven and earth to try to bring John Harbaugh in. Don't look at what happened at the end of his tenure with the Baltimore Ravens and think that's the guy you're going to get. Do you really want to be judged at the end of your relationship with a certain someone and think that's kind of the best showing of yourself? That's the true test of your character? Nobody wants that. Sometimes you got to move on. He was there for damn near 2 decades. I mentioned this on the show yesterday. Scotty Bowman, the greatest coach in the history of North American sports, says you have to know when to move on. This guy won cups with the Canadians and the Penguins and the Red Wings. You got to know when that group needs a different voice. You got to know when it's your time to go. And it was John Harbaugh's time to go in Baltimore. I think when you look at this guy, when you look at his pedigree, when you look at his resume, when you look at his morals, his values, that is a leader of men. That is a guy that's going to feel refreshed and rejuvenated. He's going to be excited for a new, fresh opportunity. That's a new group of players that is going to hear that message for the very first time. If you are a young player, hell, if you're a veteran player, and that man walks into the room and you have not had success and you're looking for some type of stability and consistency, I would be jumping for joy if John Harbaugh was my coach. And I don't care if you're a team that's looking for a coach like the New York Giants. I don't care if you're a team that already has a coach like the Miami Dolphins or the New York Jets or maybe even the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. John Harbaugh is at the top of my list. And if he gets in my building for an interview, I am not letting him leave without him putting pen to paper and signing a contract. There are certain people that were put on this earth to be coaches. There are certain people that are put on this earth to be leaders. And you can tell that it's not just John. Obviously, it's his brother Jim. Tom Crean's a member of their family. You know about their dad. We remember the Super Bowl from years ago. Like, there's just certain guys that you know that are just different. This is not, they have the right traits to be a head coach. Football's so interesting because there's so many different moving parts. There's so many layers. There's so many different coaches underneath you. But every single year you went into the season knowing that Baltimore was going to be in it. You knew that they were going to have a chance, regardless of who the quarterback was, regardless of what the running back situation was, or the wide receivers, or the defensive players. Like, they were a hard-nosed group. They were not soft. And yeah, just because it didn't work out for them the last couple of years, I mean, you know, Mark Andrews catches that ball in the playoffs last year, we might be having a completely different conversation today. Hell, John Harbaugh might not even leave. Relationships break down. They deteriorate. And sometimes you just got to move on. It doesn't mean that he's a bad coach. It doesn't mean he lost the locker room or they tuned him out. It's just sometimes you need a little bit of a change. You got to freshen it up. And again, I go back to the beginning of our show today. That's why John Cooper's the man. That's why John Cooper's the man. Is because in the last couple of years where it looked like, all right, we could be heading down in that corridor of where Harbaugh and maybe Mike Tomlin are at right now. Here comes John Cooper. And they're the number one team in the Eastern Conference. Right? Like, that's what makes him so good, to be able to reinvent himself. But that's an all-time great coach. I know there's going to be a ton of reasons out there for John Harbaugh. And for those people that say, no, I don't want him, look at what happened in Baltimore. Again, I'm not judging somebody at the end of their tenure of a relationship. Not if you've earned the benefit of the doubt. Has Todd Bowles, and this is the difference between the two, right? I'm going to ask you this. Out of the, let's go to the three teams I just mentioned that still have a coach. I want to play a prank on my guy, Jake Asman. Can anybody do that for me? Anybody? If you love me, if you guys love me, I want you to go on Twitter right now, if you're on Twitter, and I want you to say, Aaron Glenn is a great coach, and he does a lot of things well. Aaron Glenn is a great coach, and he does a lot of things well. The Jets should hold on to him at Jake Asman. Come on. Please do that. Please do that. It would be the funniest joke. We know our guy, Jake Asman, big Jets guy. He's been just torching Aaron Glenn for weeks, and he would move heaven and earth himself to bring in a guy like John Harbaugh to be there. Please, if you're on Twitter, please go on Twitter and say Aaron Glenn is a great coach. The Jets should hold on to him. He does a lot of things well. And then tag Jake Asman. If you do that, I love you. It's not too much to remember. Come on, Benny. Don't be ridiculous. Benny, you're one of the people that better do it. I'm banking on you. Aaron Glenn is a great coach. He does a lot of things well. The Jets should keep him. Those three things, and then tag at Jake Asman. We'll see. Oh, my God. That would be so funny. All right. So he's earned the benefit of the doubt. He has. Has Aaron Glenn in 1 year? No. Has Mike McDaniel? He's had some good offenses, but what have we seen? It's a lot of trickery. It's a lot of, all right, I got to get the ball out of my hands really fast if I'm Tua. I don't play well in cold weather. Would you consider them a tough-minded group? I wouldn't say that. What about the Buccaneers? What about the Bucs? This is what worries me about this whole situation with Tampa Bay. Todd Bowles is a great guy. And I think part of that, that is part of the reason why I think it's tough for the Glazers to move on. And he was the defensive coordinator when this team won the Super Bowl last. But he wasn't the head coach. He wasn't the head coach. At Jake Asman. Jakeasman. Jake Asman. Boom. It's in the chat right there. There you go. This is not a tough football team. This is not a smart football team. That's what worries me about Todd Bowles being the guy. You didn't have enough energy. You didn't have enough juice. You had to bring JPP in. What the hell sense does that make? You didn't have enough practices. Like, I just think that's such a crock of shit. I think Yaya Diaby, like, saying that is just one of the most incriminating things that I've ever heard. Like, that's just such a bad look. Like, there's so many things. It's not always what you say, it's how you say it, right? You guys know that. The fact that they bring in JPP is such a bad look. The fact that Yaya Diaby is the person that says that is such a bad look. Dude, you had 7 sacks this year in year 3. I don't want to hear shit about walkthroughs. In the beginning of the season, right? And I looked this up yesterday. You want to talk about, all right, well, this is what happened after the bye, and these are all these like easy plays and blah, 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 blah. And oh man, we could have done better. And like, guys, what are we even talking about here? Too many walkthroughs doom the Bucks. Why is that something that we are buying? Why is that something that we are accepting as that's an excuse? Dude had 7 sacks. He had 1 sack in the first 5 weeks of the season. There was no, how many walkthroughs were there? You were practicing hard in the first 5 weeks of the season. You had 1 sack. What are we even talking about? You're going to blame the fact for walkthroughs after the bye? That's the reason why you didn't play well? After the bye, you had 3 sacks. After the bye, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You had 3 sacks in the last 9 games of the season. You're telling me it's because of walkthroughs? Dude, I'm not trying to hear that shit. Everybody's like, bro, once you start getting people pointing fingers, like Todd Bowles did at the end of the season, we did all we could. We did all we could as a coaching staff. We got to get it right. We didn't execute. You're the coach, bro. A lot of like, this is loser talk. This is what losers do. Like, I'm not saying like they're a loser, like you're like talking shit, but like that's what losing teams do. That's what losing teams do. You start pointing the finger. It's that person. It's not me. Not me. It's them. Where's the accountability? You're in your 3rd year in the league. Hassan Reddick had 2.5 sacks. Everybody's talking about like Yaya Diaby, like he's calling out all these other people and calling out the coaching staff. You know what nobody else is realizing? Dude, he's calling out Antoine Winfield Jr. and Yaya Diaby. Antoine Winfield Jr. and Vita Vea and Levante David. All of those guys played 17 games this year. What? That has nothing to do with walkthroughs. Vita Vea needs walkthroughs. Antoine Winfield Jr. needs walkthroughs. Levante David needs walkthroughs. Your ass needs walkthroughs. Come on, man. Hassan Reddick. Like, the excuses with this team. Get bent. You don't hear that shit from the Lightning. It's ownership. It's on me. What can I do to get better? I hate that stuff, man. Hate it. And it'd be one thing if this was a young team. This would be, like guys that haven't won before. This is a veteran coach. This is not something that you expect to hear. Benny took a screenshot too, you son of a gun. Oh, God, that's so funny. Oh, Benny, that's great. I'm going to see if Erik did a great job of covering for Dave Mishkin. That's why we had to push the time back, because he's been sitting in for Dave Mishkin on Power Lunch. It's loser talk, man. Loser talk. I don't want to hear the excuses. When you got a team saying they don't practice hard enough, when you got a team that's coming up with excuses, when you're making excuses yourself as a head coach, bro, I've said this for many, many years, and this is before I ever got into media. The true strength of a person is not measured at your strongest. It's measured at your weakest. And if that is the way that Todd Bowles and this Buccaneers team is going to handle when things don't go well, when they don't rescue themselves from their yearly midseason swoon, is that who we really want? Is that the type of team and identity that we're clamoring for as Tampa Bay Buccaneers football fans? Hell no. I don't want that. Do you? You can't be proud of that. It's not even a personal thing when it comes to Todd. That has nothing to do with his scheme. That has nothing to do with his demeanor on the sideline. Bro, you're just making excuses. And now your players are too. And you're playing the blame game. Good teams don't do that. Good teams don't do that. That's why the Glazers, if you do not move on from Todd Bowles, all you're doing is delaying the inevitable. You're prolonging the decision that you're going to have to eventually make, and that is firing Todd Bowles. So if you want to be in a position where people are saying not only Glazers out on that side of the pond, but people are here on this side of the Atlantic Ocean, fed up with the guys in charge, then you better not go into the 2026 season with Todd Bowles as your head coach. Not personal. It's business. Erik Erlendsson's figuring it out. DT, our guy. The Blazers can get rid of Rubin. They can get rid of Bowles. Listen, DT, I said this on the program yesterday, and look at you, man, up in Belize. I appreciate you, DT. What's going on with Man U has really nothing to do with the Glazers. Like, they, in the article on The Athletic, I think it was Lori Whitwell put out, he said the Glazers have been upset with Ruben Amorim since August. That was the most recent thing about the Glazers and their thoughts on Manchester United back in August. They're so detached. It's all Sir Jim Ratcliffe over there. It's all Omar Barada, the CEO. It's all Jason Wilcox. They are the brain trust over there. It seems like the Glazers, all they do is go there at the end of the season or before the next season. That is it. That's all they do. But as far as day-to-day operations, as far as what's going on right now, yeah, I don't. And I said it on the program yesterday, and I'll say it again today. What's going on over there has nothing to do with Todd Bowles, nothing to do with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're here. Apparently, they met with them today. And now Bowles has to have these conversations with his coaching staff. Again, I said this a little while ago when we were chatting with Logan Robinson. Why in the blue hell are we trusting a guy to make another decision to bring in a different coaching staff in here, to bring in a different offensive coordinator, to bring in a different special teams coach? That shouldn't be his job. Figure it out. Figure it out as a group. If it's that bad, you're trusting him to make another move? Well, those are the guys you wanted last time. Now bring in somebody else. Well, Byron Leftwich wasn't my guy. All right. Canales wasn't great. Liam Cohen, you struck gold with Liam Cohen. But I don't love the track record. So I think 2 out of 3 wasn't great. And the only reason why Dave Canales worked is because he was an optimist bully, as Baker Mayfield called him. He was a positive guy. He was upbeat. But let's not forget, in week 18, when he was here, he had no idea what the identity of the Buccaneers offense is. You know what that sounds like? It sounds a whole hell of a lot like what we saw from Josh Grizzard. I got 3 running backs. I got 4 wide receivers. But the guy that was the best offensive player in week 18 in the must-win game was Cade Otton? What the hell are we talking about? That Carolina Panthers defense didn't have Luke Kuechly on it. Didn't have Julius Peppers on it. Petrified. Freaking scared as hell. Punting 4th and 2 from midfield with the season on the line. And this guy's punting because he trusts his freaking defense. Well, like, this shit is crazy. This shit is nuts. The more and more we talk about the Buccaneers, I think the crazier I get. This is not success. This is not how you operate. I don't care if you're one of those people that is like, I don't want to move on because I don't want to make rash decisions. I get that shit. I was the leading voice last year saying, be patient. There's no guarantee that Liam Cohen is going to be able to do the job. We know what we have with Todd Bowles. But you're stubborn, or you're an idiot, or you're ignorant if you don't take the information that you've been presented over the last 365 days and don't adjust your perspective. That's what I've done. What is the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and over and thinking that there is going to be a different outcome. And we are very lucky because here in the Tampa Bay area, we have other professional sports teams to compare to. Is that fair for the Rays ownership that we had Jeffrey Vinnick here? No, but it's the reality. Is it fair to Todd Bowles that we have a guy like John Cooper here? No. But it's the reality of the situation. John Cooper's been here 3 times as long as Todd Bowles, yet he finds ways to reinvent himself. He finds ways to keep his team successful. He finds ways to change his message so that these guys are put in a position to succeed, so young guys can come up and push the veterans for playing time. We don't see that from Todd Bowles. We see the same old shit. And when that doesn't happen, it's somebody else's fault. Todd Bowles is respected for the man that he is. What is a common thread and common trait from a person that has morals and values? A guy that we trust as a leader of men. Accountability. Ownership. We'll talk to Double E about this here in a second. You know what John Cooper doesn't do? Doesn't throw his guys under the bus. When Todd Bowles gets up in the press conference, everybody wants to talk about the profanity-laced tirade with the F-bombs. That wasn't the press conference that stood out to me. The press conference that stood out to me was when he got up there and we sat in those chairs and he said, we've done all that we can do. John Cooper would never say that. And his resume compared to Todd Bowles, it's not even close. John Cooper every single day. And tomorrow's the fireside chat. And I'm sorry, Double E, let me finish this point before I get to you, buddy. Tomorrow is the fireside chat with Julian Breezeball at 11 a.m. So we'll be a little bit late. But I want all of you Buccaneer fans to understand this. Julian Breezeball sat there a couple years ago when we first started doing this. And we're always asking him about making the team better and moves at the trade deadline. And he stopped us all. I just remember this so vividly. And he put his hand out and he looked at us and he said, it's not about the trade deadline. It's not about the draft. I spend 365 days a year trying to make the Tampa Bay Lightning better. This was after 2 Stanley Cups. He does that. John Cooper does that. Every single day is an opportunity to get better. You will never hear Julian Breezeball and John Cooper ever utter the words, we've done all we can. If that is your mindset, Todd Bowles, that you've done all you can, find me the pink slip. Because that is the same vein that we heard from Dirk Cutter years ago. What's the answer, Dirk? How do you figure this out? How do you change it? I don't know. Less than 72 hours later, he was gone. The Buccaneers were looking for a head coach. I think Lovey's a great man. I think he's a really good defensive coach. But if that is your leader and he's done all he's done all he's been able to do, done all he can, whatever. I got to talk hockey now with Erik Erlendsson. But you know what I'm saying? If that's his mode of operation, if that's what he's saying, I've done all I can, he's not the guy. Time to move on. And we move on to Erik Erlendsson, LightningInsider.com. You heard what I was just saying. Please give me your 2 cents on that situation.
Well, you're not Greg Linnelli, so I'll tell you that's a good point.
Yeah! Boom.
If anybody knows our little running joke between me and Greg, it's always trying to find avoiding ways to say that's a good point. We have a lot of fun with it. Just teasing, obviously. I mean, you do make a good point though, especially the part about if he feels he's done all he can on a year in which you missed the playoffs after you started 6-2. That's probably a pretty damning indictment.
Think about it. And I said this yesterday. I said you'll appreciate this. So I walked into the press conference, or I walked into the media room at Benchmark International Arena. I'm doing a really good job not calling it Emily. And I go, I don't want to hear Todd Bowles say to me, who do you think should be the special teams coach? I don't get paid millions of dollars to make those decisions. I ask the questions. I don't expect John Cooper. I don't expect Kevin Cash. I don't expect Todd Bowles to be able to be like, hi, I'm Erik Erlendsson, LightningInsider.com. What do you think should be my story today, Coop? Hey, I'm Kyle Berger from ABC Action News. What should be the A block today, Coach Bowles? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, if you react like that, if you respond and retort to people asking you valid questions, I think you're grasping at straws. And I want to get your opinion from, you've covered this team so long. Who are the coaches were there any coaches in the Lightning in the last 20 years that have sounded like that at the end of their tenure, right? Whether it was a Torts, whether it was a Guy Boucher, can you remember back to any of the similar feelings and sentiments that we're hearing right now with Todd Bowles and the Bucks? We've had Coop for so long.
Yeah, I know. I was just thinking that there hasn't been many. Mm-hmm. I mean, I could probably count on one hand the number of coaches that I've covered, right? Since I was the primary guy in the beat, I mean, there was Torts, and then the long extended tenure of Barry Melrose. It was Rick Tocchet. It was Guy Boucher, and it's John Cooper.
Yeah. Wow.
5 guys. I mean, the closest thing that you can come to is Melrose. Yeah. Because, I mean, I'll never forget this. They kind of had that tough start to the year after he came in, and me and Damien, who was at the time had, I think they played Washington the night before, and we're in Sunrise to get ready to go cover a practice, and all of a sudden Barry Melrose is walking back into the parking lot. We were like, "What are you doing? Aren't you guys practicing?" "Oh yeah, the boys needed a day off from me." And as it turns out, basically they kicked him out of practice.
Jeez.
Right. So a different situation.
No doubt.
It wasn't a comment, or something like that, but it didn't, and it was funny. I think it was 2 games later he was out. And that was 14 games in the season. He got fired on my son's birthday. We had, a house full of kids for my oldest son's birthday at the time. And I remember having to go out into the driveway into my car to have to do interviews.
Oh my God.
We're way off topic here, but yeah, there's no comments like that, right? Just of the 5 that I've covered, including the month and a half tenure of Melrose, who was a great quote, by the way, but that's a different story.
Yeah, and prayers to him. I know his health hasn't been all that great the last couple of years. But man, I mean, yesterday I did, I'm up in the press box the last couple minutes of that game, and it was just it was such a good hockey game, Like, regardless of who won, I love the resolve from the Lightning. I love the way that they played some of their best hockey in the 2 goals that they scored. I mean, after giving up the 2 goals to the Avalanche, I thought the pushback was it felt like a playoff type game. And I mentioned in the opening segment of the show today, according to the Ric Flair Corollary, they're the best team in the NHL, right? Because as your article set up on LightningInsider.com, to be the man, you got to beat the man. Brandon Hagel so eloquently articulated that in the post game yesterday. But hard to look at that game, Double E, and think we might not see these 2 teams go at it once again in the Cup final.
It's always possible. There's a lot of runway left.
No doubt.
You still have to get to the Olympic break and see how teams respond after the Olympics. But yeah, I mean, there's no doubt of what Colorado has done. But I mean, you look at the division Colorado has played in. I mean, there's just as much chance they can be knocked out in the first round. Right? I mean, there really is. I mean, as great of a season as they've had, Dallas is not far behind them in the standings. It's not inconceivable to think that Dallas could overtake them, and then they'd have to face Minnesota with Quinn Hughes in the first round. And Minnesota's a really good team with exceptional goaltending. But yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, you look at a game like that and go, man, could we see that for 7 games in a Stanley Cup final? That'd be a lot of fun.
It's a lot of traveling. It's a lot of traveling.
Yeah, we know.
We did that. We're gonna have to do it again. We're starting to GoFundMe now, for the playoff run. That's what we got to do. But I love that game. I just love the way that they responded. And man, that third line. I mean, we've been talking about trying to recreate a line like Gord, Goodrow, and Coleman, and you know they always say you can't go back, but that line's ridiculous. Like I said it to you. I think I said it to you last night. There was an opportunity. I don't know if anybody else saw this. Me and Eric were talking about this last night. There was a play in the offensive zone last night where Pontus Holmberg literally went around Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, and 3 other members on the Colorado Avalanche and held on to the puck. Like him and the return of Zemgun Skirgensons to play with Yanni Gord and how much they kept Nathan McKinnon in the defensive zone last night. You really didn't even see 29 be that much of a threat outside of the power plays and at the end of the game there. It was what an incredible performance. And I think that's part of it. Was ironic that on a night last night where John Cooper is celebrated for 1,000 games, the recipe to win that game was what the Lightning have done during his tenure. Like that's the kind of game they have to play to be successful, not just outscoring teams, but making sure that you take care of every zone.
Yeah, and look, yeah, we try to make comparisons, when a team has recent success as the Lightning have had, and we know the importance of that Goodrow, Coleman, and Gord line to those 2 cups, and the similarity that I see is the fact that their play has allowed John Cooper to use them as the matchup line, rather than having to lean so much on Cirelli and Hagel to do it. Not that they can't,
right?
But it kind of frees up the matchup situations, especially on home ice. And that's where I see the similarities in how John Cooper can utilize them and use them, right? We see them start a lot of periods. We see them start a lot of games, especially on the road. And we know how much those 3 and 21 and 20 were basically every single period. They were the tone setters, right? So that's where the similarities that I see between the two, not necessarily, in how they play, but in the way that they are utilized. And like last night's game in particular, you're handed the assignment of slowing down, and you don't stop Nathan McKinnon.
Yes.
Right. You don't go into a game plan thinking you can stop Nathan McKinnon. You just hope you can contain him. And 5-on-5 last night, the Lightning stopped Nathan McKinnon.
Yeah.
He had 0 shots 5-on-5. He had 1 shot attempt 5-on-5. He played 17 minutes of 5-on-5 ice time, and about 12 of those were against Gord, Girgensons, and Holmberg in some capacity. And he didn't have a shot on goal and only had 1 attempt. Now, Marty Necas, I think, had 5 shots on goal. So one of his line mates kind of found some space. But, McKinnon's the guy. We all know McKinnon's the guy. And sometimes when you know who's the guy, you can't stop that guy.
Right.
But they found a way to get it done. And, the Gord line gets a ton of credit for that because they got the most matchup. But guess what? Somebody else was playing 5-on-5 minutes against McKinnon for 5 minutes, which is not an insignificant amount of time. And they did the job. Yeah. So, that's why, I was asking the questions last night after the game about everybody buying in, right? And in a game like that, it shows, because I double-checked my ice time here, but I'm pretty sure everybody played about at least 12 minutes in that game. So you can roll all 4 of your lines. And not a lot of special teams in that game, which allows the flow a little bit. But you have the trust. Even the Paul James Bjorkstrand line.
I like that
spent
line.
A lot of time in the offensive zone. Right now, all of a sudden, that just frees up everything and allows the opportunity for John Cooper to really utilize all 4 of his lines, no matter what the matchup is. He likes his matchups, but he's not afraid if something happens and you don't get the matchup you want. And that's the difference, I think, that the Gord line, the way that they're playing this year, if you want to compare it to the line in 20 and 21 and what they were able to do, that to me is the way that you look at how this line is playing this year compared to those 3 guys, a couple years ago.
I like the look of that James Paul Bjorkstrand line because James is just a guy that does another good job of holding on to the puck. He's creative. He's tough. He goes to the dirty areas, and he's a smart player. And you look at – I kind of see what Bjorkstrand's doing, right? He's being a little bit more creative with the puck. He's trying to make some more plays. He took a couple of slap shots on the power play yesterday too. So it's not for lack of effort why Bjorkstrand's not making it happen. But I feel like he's playing – he's kind of, maybe – ascending maybe to where he could be and try to help this team. But what has worked for the power play as of late? Because it looks like, as much it's probably not as good and probably won't be as good as we saw when it was one of, if not the best power play the last couple of years. What have you seen as far as the change and why it's been a little bit better now?
Well, Darren Raddysh is shooting.
that's a lot.
That helps. And just the mentality to get pucks on net and the accuracy. That's like, I remember Andre Mazzaros. I don't know if you remember Andre Mazzaros back in the day. He had a great year in Ottawa one year. He ends up being traded to Tampa Bay. He had one of the hardest shots in the league. He couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
Oh, geez.
Like it was a hard shot, but it pounded the glass more than it came anywhere near the net. And we know how hard Darren Raddysh can shoot the puck. And he's worked on being more accurate with it. Right, and making sure it's at least heading towards the goal, where deflections, rebounds, all that. But like you saw in the San Jose game, I mean, both those power play goals were clean, hard shots from the center point. And, what that does, and Kucherov scored a power play goal in that game as well. So what that does, especially, Colorado was watching that tape, right, because it was the most recent game. So you ask, how does Jake Guentzel score that goal? Well, Jake Guentzel scores that goal because you got Nikita Kucherov here, you've got Darren Raddysh here, and you've got Braden Point here. Now, they tried to put a couple of pucks into Point in that bumper spot. Didn't work. So all of a sudden now Guentzel has all kinds of options in the corner. Yeah. He can give it back to Kucherov. He can find Point for the bumper. And if you look, nobody went to Guentzel because they knew where Point was and they knew where Kucherov was. So Guentzel was like, okay, you're going to give me the space. I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it. I'm going to score. And I think that goal happened because of the success that the power play had in San Jose. And the power play had success in San Jose because Darren Raddysh was firing off bombs from the center point, right? And Kucherov scored. And now we're not even talking about Bjorkstrand on the other side, who has looked a little bit more comfortable over there of late, right? He's never going to be the threat of 91. But he is a threat over there. So now when you start to have a little bit of success with it, now teams have to start respecting. You can't double team Nikita Kucherov. You can't overcover Nikita Kucherov and force him into making bad plays, right? It just opens up so much. So I think that's the biggest thing. I think there's 6 for the last 12 on the power play now. I think he scored in 4 straight games. So that's a sign, hopefully, that it's kind of emerging from whatever early season slumber it's been in.
So what's the future for Darren Raddysh? That's $1 million question, isn't it?
That's a $4.5 million question. Well, the blue line as a whole, it's all of a sudden very crowded. Yeah. Right? You signed Dastu to the extension. Moser got the extension. You know what the belief is in certainly in Moser in the year that he's had. And by the way, named a Team Switzerland today, which was not a surprise for the Olympics.
And Stahoviak too, I saw.
And Stahoviak. Yeah. We knew Stahoviak was probably going to be on Team Germany, and he ended up there. So, but what it means for Raddysh, it's a good question. Like, what do you do? He's been so important to the success of this team this year, and the pairing that he's made with Moser. Like, the easy thing to say is, well, just extend him. You've extended everybody else, but it's not that easy.
No.
Right? Because let's not forget, he was a healthy scratch at the beginning of the year.
Right.
right? And you love the way he's reacted to it, and we know the off-ice personal stuff he's dealing with his dad. So he has taken his game to another level. There is no doubt about it. But you have to be careful in these situations and this is where, I'm sure Julian will get asked the question tomorrow, but this is where, as a GM, you do have to kind of be a little cautious in not getting, for lack of a better phrase, emotional in the way that Radish has played in the past couple of months, which has been great. I'm not discounting that in any way, shape, or form. He's been very, very, very good for this team. But if you all of a sudden start thinking about a 5-year contract where, his cap hit is $5 million, that's a big commitment.
Yeah.
Right? It's a big commitment to a player. So,
a big commitment to a guy that his defensive was always questioned and he was a healthy scratch. And you also don't know how well he's going to play when McDonough and Hedman come back with less ice time. Right? Like you're never as bad as you are on your worst day, and you're never as good on your best day. So somewhere, where's Darren Radish is somewhere in the middle, and how much does that cost?
Well, and here's the thing, I'll add to this a little bit. Like, Radish was a healthy scratch when they played in Denver early in the year. Last night, he was the matchup defenseman. Him and Moser were the guys against Radish or against McKinnon and company, right? And there's the other thing you have to take into account. Radish has been great, but so has JJ Moser.
Yeah.
And they've worked great together. Can Darren Radish play that way with Victor Hedman? We've seen him play with Hetty plenty, right? But he hasn't played like this. So that's as a GM, that's where you just kind of have to tread a little lightly and make sure that you're making the best decision for your team and for the player under these circumstances. I tell you what, though, either way, no matter where it ends up being, Darren Radish getting paid next year.
No doubt about it. And, I wonder, you said the whole defensive core. Do you think maybe you jumped the gun on Ryan McDonough's extension a little bit?
Good question.
It's a difficult question to answer because you don't want to insult what he's done for this team. But I think playing 82 games for them last year was something nobody, not even Mac himself, could see coming. Yeah. But there's something to be said. Nobody's saying the quiet part out loud, Erik. Nobody's saying the quiet part out loud that this team has won 8 straight and they're playing better defensively without Hedman and McDonough and Lilleberg. What does that say for a team that has been maligned for the defensive structure? Blashill this, Blashill that. I mean, these are supposed to be your big horses, and I get it. It's not the whole season. It's certainly not the postseason. But it's a fair question to be asked because those guys aren't getting any younger.
I mean, to me, the defensive has just been buy-in, and Victor Hedman and Ryan McDonough are buy-in guys. Right?
No doubt.
So I don't worry about them returning and kind of messing it up a little bit. But I mean, I think if you look at the number that McDonough signed for, was a 4.1, I think is the cap hit. Basically him and Moser swap contracts. McDonough's is a little bit higher than what Moser's is this year, but Moser got max contract, right? 6.75. Yeah. So I think in that aspect, and you have a motivated and happy Ryan McDonough because for all intents and purposes, he gets to end his career in a Lightning uniform, which I think is what he wanted. So, even if with the emergence of a Dastu and Moser playing on the left side just diminishes his on-ice role, there's so much value in Ryan McDonough and everything else that he brings. And I think that's what the Lightning value just as much as the way he performed last year when he led the league in plus minus, right? So I don't think they jumped the gun on McDonough, but I think Dastu's emergence has kind of made you think about it twice.
Yeah.
But again, the value of having a McDonough around for a guy like Dastu, around for a guy like Declan Carlisle, around for a guy like Max Crozier, I don't think you can place too much value on him being around those guys every single day. Even now when he's injured, right? He was on the trip out to California around the team for a little bit. So it's valuable to have that guy, even if his role goes from 22 minutes a night to 15.
Tell JJ Moser next time you see him, stop not coming to the rink for optional just because you signed an extension and you're an Olympic guy now. JJ Moser, you crazy son of a gun. All right, we'll finish here with John Cooper. Again, we started a little bit with him, we'll end with him. And last night was special, man. I mean, and he talks about, and I didn't do a great job of asking the question, but I was trying to get him to like talk about just like Tampa as a whole. And he gave the answer was better than the question, but he got what I was trying to say. But just when you look up there and you see Rondé Barber, and he's friends with Wayne Gretzky, and he's friends with Charles Barkley, and you see Coops catch, like, even if you thought John Cooper was going to do a good job with the Tampa Bay Lightning, like, I don't know if anybody could possibly see that he would make this type of impact.
First of all, do you know how John Cooper met Charles Barkley? Have you heard that story?
I don't think so.
It might have been because I was still full-time on the beat. It was either year 1 or year 2. We were in Los Angeles, and I think the hotel the team stayed at was in Marina del Rey.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Barkley was in town with TNT, covering the Lakers more than likely, and just happened to be staying at the same hotel. End up in a bar, in the hotel bar, just sharing some drinks, sit down talking, and it's been that way ever since. So it's kind of weird how, again, I think it was mentioning with Greg on Power Lunch, the Forrest Gump type of career that John Cooper has had. And that's, right. I don't mean Forrest Gump, Gump, but just the story and how he's, everything he kind of runs into is just like a storybook on many levels. So that's how he got to meet Charles Barkley. And he showed up, like everybody was surprised when they saw Barkley show up at the 15 conference final against the Rangers, right? I was like, what is Charles Barkley doing here? And that was because of this relationship he formed with Cooper. But yeah, he is the face of this community.
Yep.
He is, and he has an impact. I mean, you see it in the crowd reactions at Benchmark, and when he goes out into the community, his Coops Catch for Kids, which has had a huge impact on pediatric cancer around here, going back to I think the 15 season when he started this. Tony, I forget Tony's last name, but he was a teenager who had cancer, and Coop kind of formed a pretty good relationship with him and the family. I think Tony even cut Coop's hair. Right. So, you think about, and it's so rare too, as you mentioned, for a coach to be in the position that he's in for as long as he's been in the NHL.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a short shelf life for coaches in the NHL. And so for him to have the opportunity to make the impact, there is no doubt, everything that happens at the Sneaker Soiree every year. And, yeah, I mean, it was a good question to ask him because he has had an impact on this community that transcends the success on the ice. The success on the ice helps.
Yeah.
It heightens his profile for sure. So he can be out there, and get his message across. I mean, he has a strong voice. Sometimes I don't think he realizes how strong of a voice he has, not just in the community, but, around the league. And, his voice carries weight because of the success that he's had, but he has definitely had an impact community wise, in large part because of the impact he's had with the team on the ice. But it just goes to show you the character of him, right? Like he's just for lack of a better term, he's just a great human.
Yeah.
Who understands, even though he downplays his impact, he understands the impact he has.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Erik Erlendsson, lightninginsider.com. Use that promo code JNZ. Get, what is it, 5-10? What is it?
$10 off every year.
$10 off every year. A great story last night after the game with the Ric Flair. To be the man, you got to beat the man. Brandon Hagel was, again, I tweeted this out this morning. Hagel was so happy that he could speak to us after a win rather than a loss. I go, keep freaking winning, keep scoring goals, and we'll talk to you after wins. And it's good to see him smile because we know what Brandon's been through over the last couple of years. Double E and I will be at the fireside chat tomorrow. I gotta ask, am I the person that labeled it a fireside chat, or did somebody else do that?
You can't trust my memory on stuff like that.
Oh, come on. You get
I
credit
have
for everything
no
else.
idea. I have no idea. I just remember it was in the quote unquote family room, and there was the fireplace kind of right off to the side where he was sitting, and we were all not huddled around, but you know, sitting around it. But sure, I'll give you credit for it.
Yes, I'll take it, baby. I'll take it. The fireside chat tomorrow. It's going to be at like 11. So we'll be late tomorrow. We got to move everything. But always appreciate it, man. Happy New Year, and I'll see you tomorrow at the arena, brother. Thank you.
Yep, sounds good. Be well.
All right, buddy. You too. Erik Erlendsson, LightningInsider.com. Come on, man. He's been covering the team. We always talk about support local. Is the guy. He's been around. He's seen it all. Support local. LightningInsider.com. Erik_Erlendsson on Twitter/X. That's a K, not a C. 2 S's after the D. Remember Double E on with the big dog. Remember him on with Ron and Ian, and then Beckles and Recher. I mean, he's been with me forever. And again, the reason why I know as much as I do about the Tampa Bay Lightning, the number one reason why is because of Erik Erlendsson. So, and like David Terry says, David Terry, you have a lot of bad things that you do in your life, including being a Liverpool fan. But thanks, Double E. Always a great segment. Love you, David Terry. All right, let's wrap it up for me. I got to get to Ian's because we got the Beckles and Recher podcast today, and we got plenty to get into. We're going to talk John Cooper. We're going to talk Bulls. We're going to talk Harbaugh. We're going to talk Yaya Diaby's comments as well. You do not want to miss that. Right here on this channel, Beckles and Recher podcast. Going to try to go on a little bit earlier today. We'll see. Shout out to Chan and Eddie. Chan, again, you guys are the best. That's the way we're going to keep this show rolling, guys. If we're getting these super chats in here, if we are also getting more partners on board with us, like Honest Hammer, like Evra Health. We're going to be late tomorrow, probably starting 1:30 or 2 o'clock, because the fireside chat's at 11. It usually goes an hour, so 12. Back at 1. If it starts at 11, hold on. Let's go 1:30 tomorrow. 1:30 tomorrow. We'll be on from 1:30 to 3, and then we will go from there. I love you all. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. Like and subscribe on Instagram. I mean, on YouTube, guys. We're over 2,000 subscribers. Jacked up, man. 2025 was great. 2026 is going to be even better. Tomorrow, 1:30 right here on the program. Don't miss it. A lot of Lightning talking. You never know what happens with our Buccaneers. We'll see you tomorrow right here on the J. Recher podcast. I'm gone.